if you are not embarrassed by your last iteration, then you're not iterating. Welcome to Start Yesterday, the podcast.
This is exciting.
It's a new year and a new us. And we're excited to just dig into it. We want to feel inspired. We did listen to something that had a good format that we like, which is talk about a thing that you're doing and then go through what you're doing well at that, what you're absolutely fucking up, and what you're going to do next.
Major shout out to Anne LeCompf and Tiny Experiments because her work is masterful. But part of her whole method there with the, what's going well, what's not going well, what are you going to do next, is to learn in public. So a bit of this podcast is us learning in public, because I think, if you've kind of ridden the wave of social media and development of that, it tends to look like people start with this perfectly polished work and then they just keep moving forward in their little niche. And you never see all the growth that they had to do to get there, kind of the behind the scenes stuff. About the only time you do experience it is if something goes massively wrong and they have this hater squad on Reddit just tearing them apart. And that doesn't really make it safe to feel like you could put something like this out there. So part of why we're doing this really is to kind of take you behind the scenes of this is what a work in progress looks like. And we firmly believe it can be fun. And actually holding space for each other in the learning process, I think is really the definition of a team, right? Like it's an art form, it's learning how to do that, and it's gonna be messy. So if you guys see us mess up, be sure to let us know, because to some extent that's the goal, right?
Yeah. Another example, I like the Tiny Experiments thing. Another example, during class I got to meet a guy. His name is Skylar Schifford. And I screwed up your last name. I'm sorry, but Skylar Schifford is the co-founder of a company called Hermes that's trying to make a hypersonic unmanned aircraft. Just
cool,
pretty aspirational. And he told us that they're doing an iterative approach, and that if you are not embarrassed by your last iteration, then you're not iterating. Was his line. Oh yeah. So let's get ready to produce some things we're embarrassed of. But yeah,
let's go.
We'll learn and we'll figure out as we go. Yeah,
I love that. Maybe the focus of this episode then is iterating. What have you been iterating about, Matthew?
What are you iterating about? Nice. Good reference. I'm iterating on just like structure, I guess I would call it. And it's been a fun process for me in setting up an apartment here in Alabama and figuring out how to put things in places that create a structure that allows me to build good habits, or habits that support the things I want to do, right? So I guess it really started with what do I want to do, right? Like I want to eat better, I want to exercise more, I want to read more, I want to have a space where I can focus and do my classwork. And so iterating through what does that look like has been a joy. But I will admit, like, there's absolutely been days where I, alone in an apartment, like I set something in one place and then like a crazy lady, I'm like, that's not right. And I try it over here, and I walk across the room and like, no, that's not right. And like, I would be a little embarrassed if somebody was watching me do that. Yeah, but it's been good. And it's built a structure that's allowed me to. What it's done is it's actually reduced friction. Like it's made making a good choice effortless. And I'm kind of loving it. All right, what are you iterating on?
I think I've been iterating on what I want this year to look like. This is I'm in my first year post 9 to 5 day job, and I'm running my own company. I have 2 companies right now, and first of all, shout out to me. I'm a fantastic boss. I really get me. I've had 0 employee complaints. Just fantastic ratings across the board. So there's that. But snarkiness mostly to the side. Doing that also takes a lot of energy, and projecting forward what I want the future to look like. Typically, when you have your own business, the only safety is in the bottom line and in the numbers. So all the books kind of tell you how to run the numbers, how to do all those things. But there's not a lot of iteration there. And I think that's a real shame, because the creative process is iteration, and kind of looking at what I want this next year to be above and beyond just finances, above and beyond, of course, I want a profit, obviously, so does everyone. But how do I want to go about that? Because in my profession of mental health, generally, you got to do continuing education credits, and you do some networking, and there's sort of these guidelines to follow, but I've really been inspired by several people much smarter than me as to what that looks like. And it's come from the most random places. When we were in Thailand, we went to an elephant preserve, and the lady there running it was so inspiring. Her name's Kat. We can link it to it in the show notes, because this place is one of a kind. But what she's doing there with absolutely nothing, and you guys, she just lost her help, so she's doing all of it on her own right now. What she's doing to support some of the most majestic beasts in the world is incredible. And if you want to talk about work ethic, you should go to Thailand. But then if you want to talk about roots and knowing and understanding where we come from and how that actually amplifies our current networking strategies, then there's so many other places in the world you could go. You could go to New Zealand or Australia and learn these things. And I think as I've gotten to travel, and as I've gotten to learn, and as I've gotten to kind of color outside the lines of what the United States says the profession of a mental health therapist should look like, I'm realizing that this stuff is everywhere, and there's really no doors closed. It's just deciding which door you want to walk through. So part of my process is I actually ended up writing a list. I've been driving Matt crazy with this, because we actually both wrote lists of kind of our focus, and true to form, Matt has 3. I have 17. But that's part of my iteration. and it's kind of naming all these spaces that I pull from. It's kind of allowing myself to see the big picture. I noticed when I worked in the office, I really was not encouraged to look past the next day. The quota of clients that I needed to see, and that was it. And being able to do a podcast like this, and go travel a little bit, and do some writing and some things like that, just getting to see that actually all these things kind of pull together. So I'm doing some creative writing right now, and I'm doing some impressionist painting, and that's just the beginning. I want to get into cyanotype, and I want to run up hills fast this year. That's a little sneak peek for you. But I think that part of that iteration kind of goes into, right, learning about some discipline of running up a hill. You have to have some confidence to do that. Cyanotype, you might actually have to have like a process you stick to, because if you mess it up, you end up with bright green fingers for weeks on end, apparently. So there's all sorts of things there. And I think it can be a very freeing thing. When I first heard about it, I thought, sounds really repetitive. Sounds really tedious. I don't have time for that. My business is barely meeting the bottom line in this moment, so I certainly can't afford this divergence. But really, kind of leaning into Matt and his approach to most things in life. Yeah, I think you can't afford not to, actually. But before he gets too big of a head about this, maybe we go ahead and we talk about what I think is going to be my favorite segment, shiny new objects. Matthew, do you have any shiny new objects that you might like to talk about this week?
I know we talked about doing this segment, but I actually haven't thought of one yet. There's usually so many.
There's so many.
Okay, I got it. My shiny new object. It's going to sound silly, but hear me out. My shiny new object is a giant salad bowl. I've been wanting to have reduced friction around making a healthy meal here, and just having a bunch of stuff pre-chopped and ready to throw together into a big old salad is the iteration that I was trying. And love the results, like lettuce and hummus and cooked chicken, seeds and vegetables, and they got some olive oil and balsamic vinegar, right? So beautiful salads. I'll see if we can like roll in some pictures of a few of them that I've done. But I had this tiny bowl. So I was cramming all of these wonderful things into this little bowl. And Heidi will probably roll her eyes knowing this about me, but for the casual viewer, I like to mix things. It's who I am. I want uniformity in the bites. I want a little bit of everything in each bite. And so there I am. I've got all these wonderful things thrown in this tiny little bowl. And I'm trying to mix it so it's all even. And then the things are just spilling over it. I mean, it's on the counter, and then I didn't do a good enough job, and so I'm sitting at the table trying. Now I'm spilling it all over the table, and I'm trying to like eat a few bites, and then makes room for the next set of mixing, and it's just it's a disaster, right? So I went rummaging through the various kitchen cabinets, and I found this huge glass mixing bowl, and I decreed that it is now my salad bowl. And so that's my shiny new object that I'm actually quite excited about. It has absolutely adequate space for the mixing of my salads, and it brings me joy.
Well done.
What's your shiny new object?
I don't know how to top a salad bowl.
Brand new sentence. What could possibly be more exciting than a salad bowl?
Oh boy. I think actually, because we're going Airbnb to Airbnb, the fact that this one has a real live desk with a chair might be my shiny new object, because let me tell you, especially when you sit with somebody and you're holding space for somebody and it's online, it's kind of difficult to do that when you're slumped over a couch or even sitting on the floor. I do both of those. But having the desk, you just kind of feel a little more yourself. I'm missing my desk. And it's also allowed me to bring back my old favorite, which is my Lectrum 1917 journal, which I love because throughout the day, I have to write my thoughts down. I have a few thoughts here. I've decided that the term digital avoidance is very interesting. That was a shiny new concept of today, that you could have digital avoidance. I think I actually do this, where because I work with a lot of people all the time, I find it kind of overwhelming to text, especially if people need multiple texts back and forth. And it's not that I don't love you. It's just that when I have 20 or so people doing that all the time, I have this digital avoidance where I will read your text, I will think of the answer to your text, but then I will purposefully not write it back. And I don't think that's a personality disorder. I actually think I'm just working through some digital avoidance. So that was one little gem for you today. My other little gem for you today was, did you know that there are seasons of the creative process, another iteration, and that those kind of look like the seasons of the idea itself, where you might be excited about this podcast today and about iterations. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to go full circle the birth of the idea, the little sprout of the idea, the summer of the idea where it explodes and proliferates and you have all these really great things happening. But then inevitably, it needs to take a break. You have to shed some layers of the idea that weren't working for you and ultimately winterize it, right? Rest with it. See what actually survives to your next spring of new ideas. And I just thought that was inspiring. So you're welcome. Shiny new object would be the space to do that, because without my notebook, pretty sure I am nothing.
Lovely segment too.
Yes.
I'm excited to keep doing that.
Me too. Well, we hope to hear from you what iterating might look like, or if any of this has struck your fancy. And so until next time, we'll be going to start yesterday.